Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to be building this amazing kit from Zvezda. It's a recent release and you can see that lovely box art out there. And this is the Zvezda Russian Air Superiority Fighter Su-30SM Flanker in 1/72 scale. And you can see that beautiful glossy box art that Zvezda has been producing on almost all its kits that have been launched during this year and the previous year. And I will be building it in the Indian Air Force Su-30MKI scheme. So a look around the box then. On the side edge you've got the Zvezda logo, followed by the fact that it is a 1/72nd scale model. And here in Russian it's mentioned Su-30SM, followed by this beautiful box art that's there on the main box art cover. On the opposite side we've got the Zvezda logo and the kit number 7314, followed by the Su-27, the Yak 130 and the MiG-29 SMT, which are the contemporary Zvezda releases along with this kit. Moving around, on the opposite side of this we've got again the Zvezda logo, followed by the Tamiya and Zvezda paint marking guides, and also showing you the entire decal sheet details. Of course I'll give you a closer look at the decals shortly. And here it is, 1/72nd scale, a total of 385 parts, so extremely detailed, and a total length of 31.4 centimeters. A look at the back of it, we've got this lovely glossy box art at the back as well, and this shows you all the details that this model can be made to depict once it is properly finished and completed. Here's a closer look at all the detailing. Look at that IRST sensor in the front, the actuator cylinder in the landing gear bay door, and then here at the bottom you've got the Zvezda logo, again the kit number 7314. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. Okay, so the usual Zvezda packaging, the brown box inside the glossy artwork box. So a top opening box, and we are greeted with the decal sheet, and you can see what a beautiful looking decal sheet this is. And it's got humongous number of stencils all around it, but of course I will not be using all of them, just the common stencils. So that is that, and here's the single big sprue bag, I should say, and you can see all that plastic inside it. Here's the second sprue bag, these are the pilots, and here's the third one, and these are the clear parts, the front and rear windshield and canopy. Here's the fourth sprue bag, this is the weapons, it has the KH-31 missiles. The fifth sprue bag, also a few weapons, these are the air-to-air missiles and some exhaust details. And here's the instruction sheet. So here's the front of it. As you open it, the sprue map followed by all the instructions. You can see all those details, a very detailed and well explained instruction sheet. If you follow it to the T, you'll be constructing a really nice Su-30. And here's the marking guide, all the decal and marking guide for the common stencils. Here's the color version of the decal and marking guide, but these are for the Russian Su-30SMs. So let's begin, and here's the first sprue. These are the pilots, so you get two different poses for the pilots. Two of these pilots are in the standing pose and two of them are in the sitting pose, but we'll talk about this guy shortly. Okay, so let's cut open the main plastic bag. And here we have the first sprue. Here's the second one, the top of the fuselage. Look at how beautifully detailed this kit is. Amazing amount of details up there. Moving on, this is the cockpit, very detailed again, beautifully done, extremely crisp plastic, and look at those detailed seats as well. Here are the horizontal stabilizers, and here's the engine nacelles and some exhaust detail, and a fifth sprue with the wings. Right, so this is the second sprue bag with three identical sets of sprues. These are the air-to-ground weapons like the rocket launchers and the KH-31 missiles. And this is the third sprue bag, and this has two identical sprues with the R-27s, R-27ERs and R-73 missiles. And look at that exhaust detail. Amazing amount of detail. It also has these chocks that you can construct if you want to display your aircraft on the ground. Now here's the sprue map, and it's marked as A, B, C, D, E, F up to K, and A being the first sprue with the two fuselage halves. Now I noticed that there is no way that you're going to keep a track of 485 parts on almost 11 different sprues. So it's always a good idea to take some masking tape and just mark it as A, B, C and D as per what is there in the instruction sheet. This will help you to easily identify your sprue and also that particular part on the sprue, and that should definitely help you keep your workbench sorted while building this kit. Right, so these are the two guys that I wanted to talk to you about earlier. So the pilot that is sitting is in three different parts: the upper part, the lower torso and the arm. But I noticed that this basically doesn't fit if you join up everything. So in case you are wishing to have your pilot seated inside the cockpit, I'd recommend not gluing the lower portion of the torso to the pilot so that it doesn't interfere with the construction in the cockpit. So we begin with the control column, and you can see how beautifully detailed that control column is, and following this you'll see how each and every part is detailed in this kit, and that simply fits with a click inside its slot. Moving on to the seat, this is the initial detail of the seat, and there is much more to it, starting with these little fiddly armrests, and you can see just how fiddly they are. It took quite a bit of screwing around to have the armrests in place. And here's another really small and fiddly part. This is the ejection seat stabilizer columns, and this basically fits from the front and just aligns into it, and look at how fiddly it was to get it into place. And here's the little ejection handle on the seat, a very fiddly part, but in the end it adds a lot of detail to the overall look of the seat. And here's some little throttles on the front and the rear seat. Now at this point I would like to talk about this part number D22/G15, which is actually the seat belt. And if you're planning to have the pilots inside the cockpit, then you would not require this part. But nonetheless, this part adds a lot of detail to the seat. And now here's another part. This is basically what forms the bulkhead inside the fuselage, and this is basically the bulkhead of the undercarriage, the main undercarriage, and you can see that it forms four different walls, and this is where the undercarriage goes. So you can see so much of detail just in the undercarriage itself. Right then, time to start with the painting process. So once the cockpit was painted up, I then used the decals available with the kit to detail the instrument panel, and these decals are very nice quality and they conform nicely to the surface of the instrument panel. You can see some nice detail on the front and the rear instrument panels. And then I moved on to further detailing of the cockpit switches. Again, these are decals, but very nice ones indeed, very high quality. So I cut out the decals from the main sheet and then placed them in the position that they were supposed to go as per the instructions. And here you can see it gives a very nice look to the cockpit. Now part number 8E basically shows you that you need to attach these hinges, and it helps you to place the exhaust nozzles either in the straight out position or in the face down position, which is when you want to show the aircraft as parked on the ground. So this is definitely a nice touch to the kit. Now step number 10 calls for the attachment of these hard points, and part number C10, which actually confuses you because here it looks as if it is attached somewhere on the air intake, whereas it actually should be attached on the fuselage. Similarly, parts C9 and C10 are very small parts which will be attached towards the end of the build. Now here I have simply masked off and painted the silver with a spray can, and basically now I am detailing the burn marks on the lower side of the jet pipe. And in much the similar fashion, I am now detailing the top side of the jet pipes with the burn marks. Basically, I've used various shades of Fevicryl by a mix and match of different colors to achieve the purple and the slight greenish brown tints of the burn marks. Now the kit comes with a myriad of air-to-air and air-to-ground weaponry like rocket launchers, missiles, air-to-surface missiles, and bombs. But I chose to go with the complete air-to-air configuration. Although I did not use all 10 missiles, I only armed it with 6 missiles, the R-73s, the R-27ERs, and the EVs. And here's a look at the actual detail of the Su-30 ladder. And if you've seen pictures of the Su-30, you know the ladders are very different from the ladders that usual fighter aircraft have, and you can see how many parts are involved in constructing this ladder. Even the ladder itself is really detailed, as I'll show you shortly. So finally I moved on to painting the Su-30, and I used Abro number 89 spray can paint, and this paint is basically the exact shade of the Tipnis grey which is present on the Indian Su-30s. I could have used Fevicryl as well to produce the same shade, but this is a quick drying paint and the painting was done within 15 minutes. I followed up the spray can painting with detailing of the dielectrics with Fevicryl grey. I used a black Sharpie, a fine point Sharpie, to detail the anti-glare panel in front of the cockpit windshield, and it came out really nice. I then used Pen Touch silver paint pen to paint the panel on the starboard side of the cockpit, as this panel is usually silver on most Indian Su-30s. Now this paint pen basically gives me a lot of control, and it helps me to correctly and accurately demarcate those areas where I need the silver to go, and it gives a nice silver finish in the end. The exhaust tailpipes were detailed separately off camera, and these were basically entirely dry brushed with oil paints, and you can see that each of the exhaust nozzles is in 4 different parts, so the amount of detail that you can show here is just stupendous. It was then time to finally detail the aircraft with the markings, and I printed these markings at home. This included the serial numbers and the fin flash, and they came out really nice. And I used my standard procedure for applying the decals, and once the decals were in place, I simply squeezed out the excess water with a cotton Q-tip. I then began with a subtle bit of weathering, which I wanted to show on this particular machine, and I used Camlin soft pastels. I simply scraped off a little bit of black and then added some water and dishwashing liquid and created a mixture, and this black mixture was basically applied on the various surfaces as a pin wash and a sludge wash wherever I deemed it necessary to have that particular type of wash. Now, once this wash was on the model, I gave it 15 minutes to dry off, and once it dried off, I simply used a damp tissue paper to clear off all the excess wash from the panels in the direction of flow of air on the top surfaces of the aircraft. And here's the last bit of detail, which is the anti-collision lights on the wingtips of the model, and a few antennae and pitot tubes. I must say the Su-30 has a lot of pitot tubes all around its forward canopy area. Then I detailed the undercarriage gear bay doors and finally attached the vertical stabilizer, and the model was literally almost complete. Finally, I leave you with the beauty shots of this amazing model. My 2 cents with this kit: at 3,800 a piece, which is the price that I paid to buy this kit, it definitely justifies the high price. One reason for that is the amazing amount of detail that is present inside the cockpit and even outside on the fuselage, and that helps you to turn it out into a very, very good looking and accurate model. The other good part is the fit of the assembly of the model, and it is absolutely flawless. There is absolutely no filler required in assembling this model, and so it happens to be the most accurate 72nd scale Su-30 model on the market. However, that statement comes with its own caveat, in that it requires a lot of time and patience to construct the kit. Due to its high degree of complexity, I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. Another positive about this kit is that it comes with an assortment of air-to-air and air-to-ground weaponry. I built 5 of these models this year with various air-to-air configurations, and that helps you to choose and make different models every time. Next, I would talk about the decals And the panel lines not being too shallow or too deep, just the right amount of depth in the panels, and you can definitely accent them with a little bit of a black wash. And finally, a mention about the decals, which are really high quality and they conform nicely to the surface. There are about 20 decals to go on each side and about 30 decals on the top and bottom surfaces. So that brings it to about 100 decals, and you would need one complete day just to fix the decals. But nonetheless, the decals bring out all that beauty of the aircraft, and you can see that in the pictures right here. And so, hoping that you enjoyed watching this entire build video of the Su-30. It had been in the making for quite some time, and I do apologize to all my fans who had been waiting for it, but here it is nonetheless. And I'm sure you would appreciate the fact that it not only takes time to build the model, but to put all of this video into place. This is about 10 to 12 days of video editing crunched into about 15 to 20 minutes of a video that you're watching right now. It takes a lot of time and effort. I enjoy doing it, but I do it for the love of the hobby. I do it for the love of military machines that have fascinated me since childhood. And last but not the least, I do it for the love of my fans in India and abroad who are watching. My intent being to share as much knowledge and appreciation of this peculiar form of art. And so I leave you with a size comparison of the Su-30 with the infamous MiG-21 Bison. You can see how big that Su-30 looks. Anyway, I sign off now. Hoping to see you again in the next video. Bye bye, take care, keep safe.